welcome to MNN Public Access in New York.
Thanks.
Glad we could catch you while you were here in New York and in the United States briefly. And it's really interesting to work. And in the audience, welcome very, very much to Conversations. We have the pleasure of having as a guest this program, a gentleman who's in New York, in the United States, very briefly. Happy to have been put in touch with him by our good friend Sidney Greenfield. And his name is Rino Bonvini.
Right.
And he's a he's a professor. He's a Roman Catholic priest, and he's also a professor. And he's also in the later stages of earning a PhD degree in psychiatry in Brazil. And he has a great take, and he's doing great work down in Brazil, in the northeast part of Brazil, that has to do with increasing the life experience of a great deal of the least advantaged and poverty-struck, of which there are too many in Brazil, as elsewhere in the world, that has great interest, and we're going to show a video about that. And Rino, welcome very, very much to Conversation. Great pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you very much.
Wonder if I could. Bonvini bespeaks Italy, in my way of thinking. You're originally from Italy, but could you share your own background? And, born and raised, a little education. And then I know we have a rather long clip we want to run that you can narrate over as well. But could you share your own background, please?
Sure. I was born in Italy in 1958.
And then Milan?
Milan, yeah.
Yeah,
nearby.
North, yeah.
And I had a good time during my childhood and adolescence. And then I began the college, my medical studies. And during my medical studies, I began to think about what to do with that. So I met some missionaries that presented me a different kind of church, Catholic church, that was a different experience of the church that I was, knowing. That was the Italian traditional church.
Okay.
They told me about working with the poor, doing something good with the poor, something for justice, something for peace.
Yeah.
And I met these people. I knew that they were liberation theologians.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. If you that was at the time of Vatican II, maybe, or so? Or?
Vatican II was the first step, the most important step of a transformation. And a growing process of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and liberation theology.
Liberation theology came up in South America, especially in difficult times in which in South America there were dictatorships around.
Yeah,
and
lots.
So lots.
Yeah.
Chile, Argentina, Brazil, and all over
Nicaragua,
Latin America.
Yeah.
So liberation theology was a kind of answer of the Catholic Church to injustice, to the desaparecidos, people that were disappearing, torture, violence, and all kinds of things.
It was a major statement by the major church, the Catholic Church, and so forth.
Definitely.
It really was. It really had a huge.
And there were a lot of bishops that they were really talking openly, about this kind of injustice. Some of them also paid with their own life. For example, Bishop Romero in Salvador, that was killed during the celebration of the Eucharist, because it was spoken out, saying that the powerful people were killing the poor people, and the poor people were tortured and killed. So
we had the whole Contra affair too, that was tied into the geopolitics of that, by reactionary forces or retrogressive thinking forces and people of the liberation theology. I wonder if we could just share a little bit your early background in the family. Was the family intellectually oriented? Were they encouraging you intellectually? Was there important discussion around the dinner table and so forth? Or
my family was supporting me, and they always helped me to go to school and to study and to be a good student. And when I decided to be a missionary, then the support changed a little bit, because they were hoping that I was staying at home with them and with the nearby.
And they probably would like you to have become a doctor. I hear you say, because is it here where you go liberal arts and then you go to medical school?
Right.
The same? That's a long commitment, many years of study. The same in Italy?
Yes, of course.
So that's a major step. And also, it's very competitive for entry into that. You were a
Definitely.
good student? You were a good student.
I
Science
was an
and
A
so on?
student, yeah.
Yeah, A student, yeah. And the family was, did they talk about things of an interesting nature around the dinner table rather than just
Sure.
gossip?
We used to do
you
that.
understand what I mean? Yeah.
Of
so
course.
it was intellectually stimulating.
Yes, we
And
used to do that.
Uh-huh.
But as I said, the problem with my family was when I decided to be a missionary because it
Were
was
they
a
secular-minded?
tough choice.
Okay, were they secular-minded, do you think?
They
Is
are
it great-
Catholic, they go to church once a week, but they are not, like so religious of accepting easily that I was going to the missions in the dangers, maybe in the wars, and they were scared about that.
Yeah, I
So-
don't wonder. You would have been, what, 25 or something like that, or
Yeah.
relatively so, and everything like that. And the liberation theology, and then also, there is a humanist strain in terms of looking at the human. There are secular humanists, and then there are some sacred humanists and so forth. Were you encouraged, or were you involved in a humanist view of the human condition that gave
Of
them
course.
grief, or were they deeply devoted to traditional religious principles, or do you understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah.
We are talking here about a unit between faith and life.
Right.
So two things that are supposed to be linked, not the faith upon the sky with the angels and the life down there, and the religion doesn't touch there.
There's been a lot of that in human history.
Of course.
Yeah, where there's a big
It's a
gap
dichotomy.
between what our wisdom school leaders tell us and what the political leaders have done, because we haven't really had anything like a universal just system, in my view, ever. It's always been a matter of a few people have all the power and the political power and the economic power and so forth. From emperors in Rome to kings to
And
current bankers.
This is the case of liberation theology.
Yeah.
When we talk about power, we talk about a structure like a pyramid,
Yeah,
in
pyramid,
which
yeah.
people that have power and that know are on the top, and then they go down, down, down until
You had
you find the
helots and
slaves.
You got
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we've had slaves.
Right.
Yes, right.
This is the typical pyramidal structure.
That's history.
Liberation theology
Yeah.
is proposing a different structure that is a circular, is the circle,
Okay,
in which I can be the first because I know a lot of things,
Yeah.
but also the poor people, also the slave, knows something that I don't know. So in the circle, we are supposed to share, we are supposed to be part of a unique family, and so be really brothers and sisters of the same father.
Yeah, and
So,
democratic. Economically democratic? No?
that's another
thing.
consequence.
Okay.
But
Okay, yeah.
I would like to
a state of mind.
to explain,
Yeah.
that in the circle, the humanity is a two way
Yeah.
going. I give and I receive.
Yeah.
It's not only the giver that knows, that can, but sometimes I help the others. Sometimes the others help me. So we are all part of the same family, all related. And this is a very ancient wisdom that is coming, for example, from the Lakota people, that
you were
Native
just there.
Americans. Yeah, I was just there.
I had a wonderful friend, Vernon
They have always clear the idea of the circle of life,
Right,
in which someday we go in and someday we go out, and this walking in life, we learn, and we are supposed to become wise. We are supposed to learn to love,
and also
so
appreciate ecology and the other creatures.
of course, all related.
Yeah.
They mean when they say mitakwe or
Yeah.
zin, we are all related.
Yeah.
That not only human beings, but also animal, vegetal, mineral, everything is part.
And do you know the Iroquois here? They were on this East Coast, the Iroquois tribe.
Yes, yes,
That
I've
they
heard
had
about
a
them.
democratic system that our founding fathers, George Washington, John Adams, and all that, learned a great deal in terms
Right.
of their critique of Britain's monarchy and so forth.
Right.
They learned, and they were in advance in terms of having a democratic system that was a great deal of incorporated into our system in some of its best dimensions in terms of the way we organize this country. If you understand what I mean.
Human rights.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
democracy.
Of course.
And involvement of people. So that's interesting, yeah.
So, as a medical doctor,
Yeah.
as a psychiatrist, and as a priest, I went to Brazil, and I went to share my knowledge and my wisdom
One thing. Could I
for
ask you?
receiving too.
Okay, well, let me ask you. In American structure, a psychiatrist is a medical doctor.
Right.
It's a specialization of
Exactly.
medicine.
Exactly.
And they can write prescriptions and so
Right.
forth, whereas
Yes.
a psychologist not.
Yes.
You said as you went as a doctor and a psychiatrist and a doctor, were you a psychiatrist, a licensed psychiatrist, or were you
when I went
just
to
having an interest in psychiatry? Because I know you're about to get your PhD.
Right.
Now.
When I went to Brazil, I had to make the adaptation of my European
Yeah.
MD title, I'm a medical doctor, in Brazil.
So have you done that?
During that time, that it took 4 years because I had to wait for the permanent visa for applying to the revalidation of the title. So during that time, I studied psychiatry, and I became a specialist in family therapy.
Family therapy, my son's
at the
involved
University of Ceará. And then when I got my degree, I could, with my grades and credits, apply for being a teacher, for being a professor of psychiatry.
I see, okay.
And so I am a teacher. I'm teaching psychiatry and psychology at the medical school in Fortaleza.
Okay, and you're very involved in this program that we're going to be hearing about in depth, because it's really useful in dealing with the people in the favelas and so forth, and how you're dealing with the poverty of the people in what we call slums or that, and bringing some decent living standard as much as possible, both in terms of their mental processes themselves and the social and economic organization to that part of Brazil, and it seems to be working.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
It has been recently recognized with many awards, and also
To you or to many?
to me and to the institution, the NGO.
Congratulations
Thanks.
to you and the institution. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And also we had a couple of years ago a meeting in Washington at the World Earth Organization, the Pan American section,
Right.
and we presented our experience that is called Systemic Community Approach.
Systemic
community approach.
There is a term in development thinking called community development. Is it similar to, or does it have some grounding in what is called community
There are
development?
some links,
Yeah.
but the vision of the systemic community approach, starting from a point of view of therapy and psychotherapy, means to organize a multiple impact therapy with different techniques that can help the people, the poor people, that they do not have any chance of finding a psychological or psychiatric service for free.
Yeah.
And the only answer...
And they're often in despair because they're being so oppressed.
And until 20 years ago, the only answer, it was to go to the psychiatric hospital. So a person that was going through a problem of mental health, of pain or suffering, and there was, like in some confusion or psychological turmoil, was going to the psychiatric hospital, spending there maybe 1 month, 2 months.
And what would they do? They would be admitted and they would be submitted to maybe pharmacopoeia or drugs. And everything in the traditional way that often does more difficult, more trouble than they help, right?
Often.
Right.
And so we began this program that is a community program in which people that are going through this kind of problems are welcomed. And then we have different kind of groups in which people are listened, and then they can share, they can somehow explain what's going on. And in this circle, people share their own experience, their own wisdom. It's a self-help group that can have different goals. The simple one, community therapy, is to help people to begin to understand how to transform this pain in healing, in wisdom, in understanding, and so in a growing process.
That's like psychotherapeutic.
Of course.
Yeah, it is. And is it like, it's like group therapy? Is that the wrong term, or is there similarity?
It is. Okay. But we call the community therapies because also some leaders of community that are not psychologists or psychiatrists, they can sometimes facilitate the group because is the sharing, is the experience that is coming out from this group that is provoking, is somehow producing the psychotherapeutic effect. And so it's a very interesting thing. It's a simple thing. It was invented in Brazil from a psychiatrist, Adalberto Barreto. That is
I think he inspired you, no?
Of course.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we didn't get to that, but he had inspired you to think about Brazil. Yeah,
of course.
Right.
When I was in the States, in Chicago...
You did a degree here?
Yes,
MA.
I got an MA at CTU, Catholic Theological Union, in systematic theology.
Okay.
Then at that time, I went to the World Congress of Psychiatry that was in Rio de Janeiro in 1993. And there I met Adalberto Barreto.
Oh, I see, right.
And he showed me, you know, what was going on in Fortaleza, what he was doing.
Of course,
yeah,
because
I
it was
saw,
in keeping, yeah, right.
I saw, you know, something simple that was effective and working in the good of the people, or the poor people,
and you
abandoned people.
You also had a lifetime concern for the least among us, as the good book says we're supposed to have.
Oh, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's been said but ignored by our political leaders more or less, it seems to me, throughout all of human history. And the world is not just. I did a program a couple of days ago where I had talked in the past with somebody, I forget who, but it was Carter, our ex-president. And I said, or I was citing a thing he did. And he said, do we live in a just world? They asked our ex-president. And he said, of course not. The world is not just in terms of the institutions by which it's being operated. And that's something that rankles the conscience of a great number of very good people, including yourself, I would submit. You're on the side of trying to create justice for the least among us.
So the way that we found out for...
You're not trying to take care of the interests of the rich and powerful who are living in big houses on the hill in great splendor.
But you know, some of them, they come also to participate in our project.
Okay, so you're making a bridge.
Yeah, because as a teacher at the medical school, I teach to the medical students. The majority are coming from the feeded families, you know, from middle upper class.
Every political entity in the world, that's the way it is and always has been.
So the part of my program as a teacher is going with them to the community and show them what's going on, understanding what's going on.
Go ahead.
Because many of them, they never had the chance or opportunity to go there and to see it, to smell and to touch the pain of 30% of the population in Brazil that is living below of the poverty line.
30%. Fully 30%.
Yeah.
Is that
now
$2 a day or something?
More or less.
Yeah, right.
In the last few years, there was a big improvement because with the new president, Lula, really with the social program that helped a lot to develop a better level of life. When I arrived first in Brazil in 1996, there were people starving. Yeah. Kids were dying, starving. Now there is a minimum wage that is a kind of welfare that they can have food at least 3 times a day. So nobody's dying of hunger now.
So are you political, and have you also gotten over into anything as arcane as economic theory, by which the political class rule the countries of the world? You know, are you a Keynesian, or do you think economics, or are you aware of this disease that I think is maybe the major problem confronting mankind? And I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but I sort of discovered it in my own head on a subway the other day. It's this dread disease, lack of funditis. Can you understand?
Lack of funditis.
People don't have money. They don't have money. It's they don't have money, and they have to go and do something like a slave or a trained bear in order to get money, called a job that they have to do, and it's out of sync. And all the capital assets are owned by a tiny plutocratic class in every political entity. So the lack of funditis is a thing that gets people, by and large, upset. They don't have money. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, it's true, but it's not only a matter of money. It's a matter of self-esteem, for example. If a person has enough money but doesn't believe...
If they have enough money, they will have a great deal of self-esteem.
No,
You don't think so?
It's not.
You think
it's
there's
not
something noble
mathematical.
about being poor?
No, that's not the question.
Okay.
We are talking about mental health. So I'm talking about
Okay.
working with the
Okay.
poor
Okay.
and what we learned there with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you first can believe that the problem is the money, but it's not. Because the real poverty is the internalized poverty.
Okay.
When the person
Yeah.
when the person
Yeah.
do
The
not
effects of-
see
yeah.
himself herself
Yeah,
as a
right.
gift,
That's right.
doesn't see the potentials, the power that can be developed.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, she can get money, school, education, and
Well, that's
jobs.
that's
Do
a
you
very
understand?
and a job. Yeah.
So
See,
it's a
that's
self-esteem
right.
recovery process that we learned
That's a
was
very-
necessary to
right,
begin.
Right. That's a very interesting take. It's the basis of a great deal of psychiatric thinking. You know yourself and be assertive on your own right and recognize your own power.
Right,
That's
and
part of
with Michel
psychiatry.
Foucault in a very
Norman
good...
Vincent Peale, you can raise yourself by your own bootstraps if you just get in turn, that kind of thing. I'm sort of on the other side, I think all they need is money,
Yeah, but if we see things from this side,
Yeah,
and we talk
absolutely.
about self-esteem and taking care of ourselves, because Michel Foucault in his book Hermeneutic of the Subject explain us that really to know ourselves
Yeah.
means to take care of ourselves
Yeah.
for taking care of the others.
Thank you very
this
much.
This is the
Thank
real
you.
meaning
Okay.
of self-knowledge.
Okay, that's very good.
And I
It's
agree
been-
with him.
And it's been projected by virtually all of our spiritual and wisdom school leaders, from Buddha to Lao Tzu to Confucian to Jesus
Exactly.
to everybody. It's been there, and it's been ignored by the political leaders. But
Exactly.
anyway,
So trying to
yeah.
serve Jesus Christ
Yeah.
And going to do something good for the people, we began this program.
Good,
with
okay.
community therapy, self-esteem recovery groups, drug prevention with the kids and the adolescents,
Right.
course for helping them to get some professional skills for working and getting some money and maybe go to high school and go to college with this money. And then a house in which they can learn to play instruments,
guitar? Yeah.
guitar, piano,
Are the people
drums.
of Brazil ever going to learn how to dance the samba?
Of course.
No, I mean, I'm serious. I think that
Of course they
I'm
are.
making a joke. I'm making a joke.
will see
Seth.
them to
I'm
dance
making
in the
a
video,
joke.
the
I
small
know.
video.
Okay, that's good. Now listen, one of the problems I could talk to you for 16 hours, easy. Maybe we could do it over coffee if you ever come. Yeah, but we're limited to one little hour, right?
Okay,
And you
okay.
have brought. And you've laid things out here, and you have brought in a video that's rather long. It's about 15, 16 minutes, right?
12.
12, okay,
12 minutes.
minutes. That's still pretty long. Okay, and we're going to run that now, and that has some point where there's some music and so forth, there's some narrative, but we're going to keep the mics open, and you're going to narrate a little bit when there's thing to
Okay.
explain, and it'll explain the situation that you're very deeply involved with, and if I'm not mistaken, the implications of this approach that is working well in Brazil and could be applicable in other parts of the world too,
Right.
is something that you are concerned with in terms of your dissertation in psychiatry and
Yes,
so forth. So it's a
yes.
major part of the work you're very involved in.
Yes.
So is that a sort of summary of what we're going to do? And
Yes,
have them
exactly.
set that up?
And this was somehow recognized from the World Health Organization, the Pan American section, that wrote down that this experience could be multiplied in the all Latin America. And now we got
Maybe beyond Latin America.
Maybe
it may
beyond.
have universality.
maybe
Maybe,
beyond
yeah.
with, because there is the Pan American, so they are working more with this direction of Latin
Does it
America.
have a title, the video you're going to show, or is it we're just about ready to
Yeah,
show
there are some titles. And then this is a video that we got with the Banco do Brasil Foundation that gave us an award recognizing that our experience is efficient and replicable.
It can be
replicable.
replicated. It
Yeah,
can be
can be
replicated not
replicated.
only else in Brazil, but in other parts of Latin America, and
Exactly.
perhaps other parts of the world.
You can see that.
Okay, so why don't we see? We set it up.
Okay.
We're going to talk to Rino. Rino
Bonvini.
Bonvini, And let's set that up, and he will give some, he'll have his mic going, but let's set that up and pump the sound into here if you can too. This is about a 12-minute video that describes it.
Yeah,
Could you pump the sound into the studio when you get a chance?
This is an introduction that explains the different stages of the development of our experience. That the goal is the social transformation, and they multiply this experience everywhere. And the approach that we invented is called systemic community approach. This is the situation of life of people. You can see very poor. 30% of these people live below the poverty line. The kids are in the streets, and they are easily sometimes nearby people that use drugs, that are doing wrong things. And many of them, they are also during the night helping the families to get some recycling for getting some little money. These are kids that are going to school. And this is our community therapy setting, in which we can see can participate many people, 30, 40, 50 people. And they go through different kind of techniques and different kind of therapies. We have also massage therapy, Reiki. Reiki, yes.
Yeah.
Deep relaxation. There are groups of theater. This is a group of cultural experience with the Indian tribes that we worked with there, with the Pitagwari tribes. Music, and occupational therapy for the women. So there are different kinds of therapies. And we will see the different spaces in which this is happening. This means interaction with the community. There are different centers, and every day there are different groups that are meeting, and they are working up, with the emotional, with the feelings, with the pain of the people. You can see that.
Uma cura, uma forma de transformação da dor em crescimento.
And this pain can be welcome, can be listened with empathy, and then this pain can be transformed in wisdom, in growing process.
Essa é a palhoça do movimento
It's a very simple setting, but it's a powerful one, because really thousands of people in these years went through this kind of community therapy, terapia comunitária. It was created from Adalberto Barreto, that is a psychiatrist of the University of Fortaleza. And different kind of people are going to this therapy. Also people that come from the rich side of the city. And they come over, and sometimes they stay there as volunteers. So there is an interaction between the poor and the rich people. There is a bridge also through the medical school, so the students come over there for experience, for stage. This is the experience of the kids that are dancing, recovering the traditional and cultural roots.
Ouvir, tratar, descobrir novos
Course,
potenciais,
professional courses.
resgatar vidas. Trabalho que abre possibilidades
Chiropractic,
para outras
that
atividades
is also
que
another
promovem
service that
qualidade
through
de
volunteers
vida,
that are coming from the United
resgate da
States,
autoestima.
we can offer to the poor people. Everything is for free.
How is it financed?
Afterward, I will explain.
São trabalhados
Basically with benefactors, and now with the public power that is helping us.
de acolhimento,
The public,
Yeah,
from the
public
government.
power, from the government, yeah.
Okay, at a state or national level?
Yes.
Or never, I'm sorry, I will stop talking.
Yeah, this is the self-esteem group. So there are different techniques.
uma psicóloga
The person get in touch with their feelings, get in touch with the pain, and is helped to transform it.
mais de 10 anos de experiência
And we use also a technique that is called constellation, family constellation, that was invented from a priest in Germany, and that is very powerful. It's a technique that can help a lot. And it's interesting that also the elders, you know, like this man, have opportunity of going through different kind of services.
A massagem promove o bem-estar pessoal, a interação com o outro e a aceitação de si, contribuindo com
This
o
woman,
processo de integração.
when came first there in 1996, she was suicidal. She was,
What does that mean?
she tried
Suicidal. Oh, I see.
suicide.
Sorry, I
She
didn't-
tried to commit suicide 3
Wow.
times.
Yeah, wow.
And then she went through the process, she recovered, and now she's helping the others.
Wonderful,
And she's getting some money now with that activity because she have been doing a course of massage therapy, and now she's good at that.
She's earning a salary or something now?
Yes. This is the Psychosocial Attention Center that is part of the program of the government for welcoming the people that are going out from the psychiatric hospitals. So we have there people with schizophrenia, with depression, with bipolar disorder, with multiple suicide.
Really?
Yeah. And then they go through a process that help them through the psychiatrist, the psychologist, to do the right medication to stay away from the hospital. So to stay more with the family, more with the community. So when they are very welcomed, they get better. This is a garden, a community garden, in which we produce vegetables, herbs, and people learn how to use the natural herbs, so as an alternative for the medications, because sometimes they do not have the money for buying the medication.
Do they use cannabis as a medical thing?
Not yet. They use it
Maybe they will. It's got
in a different
It's
way.
got great healing properties. Yeah.
This is a program for drug prevention. So the kids, you know, they have a space in which they can play, they can dance, they can study. They do interesting and nice things, so they do not go looking for wrong things like drugs or wrong life. And there are a lot of initiatives. This is the program for the kids that are working during the night in the streets. You can see are little kids, and they go with the families that are very poor for recycling, you know. So they spend the night in the street and they can't go to school. So this program welcome them and give some little money to the families. That is the money that they could somehow have going to work, and so we try to keep them out of the streets. That is very dangerous because there, you know, at night you can find everything. This is the house in which people learn how to do professional courses, informatics, arts, paintings, art crafts, and different kind like sellers, secretaries, health helpers. This is the house for arts, music, and theater. So the kids, they are not anymore in the streets. They are playing. They are studying different nice things. Different instruments, painting, arts. This is the Pitagori tribe. Is an Indian tribe where in 2007 we began to work transplanting our experience there. And now it's working very well. And we have an interesting experience of sharing with the Lakota tribe that through my brother, Adam Lidelelk, I was adopted as a brother from from this brother of mine, and he came over a couple of times last year and this year, and there is this sharing through the Indian cultures, and the Pitaguari went back. Now they are learning the language. They understood through the experience of the Lakota the importance of learning the language for understanding better their own roots, their own spirituality, and so their own future. So the goal is the social transformation. And we can see these people that are sharing about their own experience, how this therapy, how this movement helped them to realize their own dreams, to be themselves, to understand. This guy was a little kid 10 years ago, and now he's working there with us. And many of these friends are in the streets. You know, they are doing drugs. So this is capoeira, that is a typical dance, Brazilian dance, that the slaves transformed in a dance. And this is the possibility of multiplying the experience, as we are doing with the Pitaguari tribe. So it's a different experience. It's a popular community experience that has significant results and is helping these simple and poor people to become themselves, to be themselves the best they can. And this is the award that we received from the Fundação Banco do Brasil, that is the Bank of Brazil. So with the government, the Ministry of Science and Technology award. And we are happy because it's a very important.
Well, very good. So you laid it out and you got it out and everything like that. It's really interesting. A lot of questions come up and everything. I appreciate that very much. I think it's wonderful. You got a lot of activity going on. I asked you before, you got buildings, you've got people, you've got that.
Yes.
In general, one would ask, how is it financed?
In the beginning,
you have some buildings, you have rent to pay, you have mortgages to meet, you have the realities of the financial world.
Yeah, in the beginning.
And how does this integrate with the overall educational system or social work system that may have been there before you introduced this new one?
Good question. When I arrived there, my companions, the Bonvini missionaries, they were there since 1987.
Okay.
So they somehow helped the communities to become more aware of their own rights. And
good. Thank you. Yeah, we all should do that. Yeah.
You know, they taught to the leaders the basics for being part of this process of transformations. So the leaders, when I first arrived there, they were already ready. They were ready to do something.
The leaders of the culture,
communities,
of the community,
base communities,
of the base community. So those are recognized leaders. Is there a system of local government? How do they recognize local leaders?
Our church leaders,
church leaders. Okay.
And recognizing the community, people that have a kind of authority because reputation stuff. So when I went and I proposed my experience that I was looking for, some of them, they were interested because they saw that was important, because they saw that there were a lot of people suffering from this kind of mental problem, and there was not any answer. So they joined, the proposal, and pretty fast the Movimento de Saúde Mental grew up. So in the beginning, I was receiving funds from Italy, from friends, benefactors, but then we could buy some of the houses in which we are.
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, the practical realities.
Yes, we could buy some of the spaces in which we are working. Okay. Some other are of the community, and we use that.
Buildings that maybe were abandoned,
exactly,
or could be
not used,
reclaimed. Yeah,
exactly. And if you saw, there are simple structures like hut that remember the native environment that
Yeah.
is very simple, and so it's not very expensive.
Yeah.
And then little by little, we somehow could receive funds from the public power, from
From
the government.
Public power is
Yeah,
the government.
yes.
At the state.
It's the
Do you have a
government, the state, and
Local.
the local city power.
Yeah.
So there are three different sources of benefits.
So is there with Lula or with others or the Brazilian system, are there ways for
Federal.
them to be, from the federal, are there ways that money is being funneled through the system to institutions similar to the one you're doing
Yes.
that help the people in the way that you do?
Exactly.
Okay.
For example, the federal
We
government.
don't have much of that here. We do it through churches. Is it being done through the church? I mean, we let the, we you know, I'm sorry, I don't see that very relevant to the way they just have people sleeping on the streets and people walk past them. And, you know, there's not much concern for the people that are the poor among us
I
at
see.
the federal level.
I see. There, the federal level can give some funds for some organizations that are working with different programs. For example, the program for the kids that are in the streets recycling, this is a federal government fund. Then we have a cultural point. They pay, you know, the whole structure with books, with the material for the kids, so they can go there, they can study, they can use computer. So there are different kind of helps, you know.
And some of that's coming from the federal government.
Some of them from the federal
through a
government.
taxation system of the private sector.
Yes.
Okay, same as here.
Yes.
But here we have people within the federal government. You say that there are people who want to abolish the Department of Education. The Committee for Supporting the Arts is being defunded. They don't want to give anything to the arts. They don't want to give anything to anybody that has anything to do with these fluffy social values. There's large influences within the federal system that give it to the banks and the
Thanks
bankers.
be to God, in
you know.
Brazil is different. So
Okay, you say Brazil is
Yes.
different. Okay, I'm just saying you're experiencing, there is some, of course, and there's always people of conscience, people within religious quarters or, you know, social concern entities and that kind of thing who might do, but, okay, I'm just saying I don't see much direct support, except through the political process where you argue about economic policy and how are we going to distribute income to people.
And then you asked me before, was the action within the other institution,
Yeah,
the local
yeah.
level. So we are
Educational
involved.
institutions, yeah.
Yes, we are involved with different groups
Yeah.
that meet and reflect about, for example, kids, women, violence, drugs,
Right.
education.
Yeah.
So we are
Social policy, yeah.
it's an articulation of different kind, and our director board is with different coordinators. So each one of them has his own or her own goals, her own objectives, and then in the meeting that we have once a week, each one of us share what's going on, you know, in that specific sector or that specific activity or that specific situation. So it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah,
It's a coordination of coordinators.
Corey, they used to have this thing, community development. I told you I was in Bolivia for a couple of years. And
Yes.
everything, and they had a thing going then. That was back when there was, the tenor of the times was different. But what they would do, this would be among the people, the Aymara people, who Evo Morales represents now, in a political sense, was real clout. But they've been treated like esclavos ever since Pizarro.
By the way, we were invited recently to go to Bolivia from the government because they want us to share our experience there and to see how can fit, especially with the natives, tribes there.
In the Altiplano or in the west? In the east?
We are going to La Paz.
La Paz, okay.
But then I
spent
don't know.
2 years there, brother,
Yeah.
so I can give you some hints I know
Yeah,
a couple
thanks.
good restaurants. and
Thanks.
where you
Oh,
can get a
well,
beer, you
good
know.
idea to know
Yeah,
that.
Yeah. But no, that's good. That's
the
good.
government sent 2 psychologists. They spent almost a month with us. They watched and they saw what we are doing, and they went back and very happy. You know, they want us to go there for beginning a bridge and to share this experience also there with the poor and abandoned people.
You got a lot of poor people all over and everything, but they had a thing there called community development. And you got the people, they have an ancient civilization, they have all this stuff, but the people are poor. And so what they had a thing where they would have a thing like a meeting. You have a meeting, but they could have it just in the plaza. They'd have a meeting or something, and they would say, okay, we want a school for the kids, right? They would have a meeting. It would be like
It's a political level.
Well, yeah, at just the local people. Everybody knows everybody and say, look, well, we can get things, just get together and do it. And then they would say, okay, and let's get together, and they could build adobes. So they could build the adobe walls as part of this thing, but then there's a thing called calamina, I don't know, that's the tin roof that you put over the structure that you build from adobes. That can be done with local resources and so forth, but that was something that was beyond their capability because they're poor, they're dirt poor. But they do it. And then there was a structure to La Paz where things like that would go up, and then those things would be supplied to support the work of the community development, of the community working together to do what they could do, and then there would be some support, financial where it's needed, relatively small, modest amounts. But that was a very important kind of thing. It's like what they call nation building or something like that. Is that ring true to you, or does that ring true to what you're trying to do? You wanted the people to be involved themselves.
The strength of the community. If we are able to awake the energy, the power, the understanding, the gifts, the potentials of the community, and the people get together, the synergy of the participation, of the transformation is evident. We are seeing that there.
Yeah.
It's a matter of helping the people to wake up.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the case of America, it was Mr. Kennedy, John Kennedy, way back, you know.
He was killed.
He was killed. You get the good people, they're killed. And so it's a cynical kind of view of things, and you know, all the efforts of the people trying to help the least, they're too busy being sycophant to the people who are powerful and rich in every country, and they want to be that way. So I got a cynical view, and I laud you and congratulate you on trying to do something that's going to help them. I'm just a little worried because that kind of came apart. I don't know quite why, but USAID, that was involved the USAID and some people in the government, and they are mostly spending their time in the capital cities. I think the same thing goes on in Kabul. We got the same problem in Afghanistan and so forth now. They would be spending, the bureaucrats within USAID would be spending their time in gated communities where they live well and have cocktail parties and talk about things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I do.
This is the main problem, and you're moving across the... I got a cynical view of what the well-to-do and the comfortable are able to do outside of something really politically motivating like Evo Morales. And that was in the interests of the Amara people, and they've been treated like... It was worse. I did a program with Rino. It was worse than slavery, the encomienda. And the slavery that was indulged after Pizarro on the American Indian peoples, and it happened here. We violated every single treaty and everything. And are we wanting them to have faith with a system that has treated them so badly? Can it happen? Can you have cross-cultural thing like that, where the powerful lord it over the rich, over the poor, and have, and do throughout all of history, and everything is for the interests of the already wealthy, to whom the people will try to become sycophant or in a suck-up position so that they might be able to eat, you know, caviar once in a while and live the good life for themselves and their families.
But in this case, in Brazil, we are seeing a different thing.
Okay, good.
And I see rich people coming over as volunteers. For example, there is...
From other lands? from other countries or from
No,
other parts of the
yeah,
country?
also from other countries.
Really?
For example,
Okay,
during the summer.
Because there's a lot of people want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And they need venues where they can express it.
There are some
Yeah, good.
international
Okay.
volunteers.
Right.
But I would say also there, people that are living in the good part of the city, the rich part of
It's
the
the
city.
way it is everywhere in the world.
And they are sensitive, they are, mature on the human level, so they come over and they spend some time, they offer their own time as volunteers, and they teach to our school that helps the young youth people going to college, because go to college for the poor is very difficult. Not only for the economical, but also because the public school is very, very simple sometimes. So they do not have the good preparation.
They don't have a good education. Right?
Yeah, for entering into the university, there is a test that is very difficult. It's called vestibular.
Yeah.
So only the rich people go to the public
Right, that's
university.
the way it's been
so
since forever, since Rome.
That's
It's
funny,
been like that. Everything's for the benefit of those who already have.
But we are helping these people to study, to prepare themselves, and this year more than 70 young people joined the different colleges. They are studying. More of them already they are graduated, and some of them they are working now in the organization.
Okay, that's
so
good.
that's
So
interesting.
you're helping, but you also have an infrastructure, I presume, in was it Syria or some? What's the province up there where you are? Fortaleza or something? I'm not sure where you
The
are.
state is Ceará.
Yes, Sierra. But you've got there a thing like, for instance, you have educational institutions.
Yeah,
you have
we have
what
it.
they're called schools.
Yes.
Do you have a commitment to educate? Does the government or the country large have an education like everybody should be able to have an education, a public education paid for by the taxes, and you try to get as much as you can good into that institutional structure, and then what you're doing might be, you'd be in league with the education or other socially responsible institutions that do exist. How rich is that in Brazil in trying to, do you understand, like public schools? Is there support for it? What is the tax base? How much are they taxing? What percentage of taxes go from the super wealthy for things that are being done through the government? Is more things being done in the state of Brazil through the governmental or the government, the public sector, the government sector? Is it going that way? That's like going socialistic or left wing or something like that? Is it moving that way? Are there more taxes being taken from the rich or from the multinational corporations making all the money and so forth by fiat of being able to do it? What's the political context in terms of Brazil?
The political context is going to socialist understanding,
socialist.
but very slowly. Very slowly.
Very slowly. Lula is a step in that direction.
Yeah.
From what there has been.
And so he has been walking, and I'm sure that a good step was done, but still we have to walk a lot, because still there is more injustice. There is a lot of people that are really needing, more attention, more education.
Is injustice,
more
is it inherently built into the infrastructure of the historical development and its institutions that it is inherently unjust as it's always been? I mean, that's a statement, Mr. Carter, saying no, we don't live in we don't have just system.
If we listen
anywhere,
if we listen to the gospel, Jesus Christ told
but
that.
But we don't listen to the gospel.
Well, but if we read it, we find out that Jesus Christ already said that we have always the poor people with us, and we will always have people that are committed to peace and justice. And they will be...
No, but they said also that we will always have the poor.
Yes.
So that's a great cop-out to the fact that let's not do anything to serve them because they're always going to be here. And Jesus said it, and Jesus was the Son of God.
No, but this is the reason.
So they'll always be poor, so don't do anything
This is the reason why liberation theology today is very actual, because it's a preferential option for the poor and abandoned people. So since there are these people, we have to take care of them. We have to take care of their education, earth, quality of life, culture, and understanding of life.
Why should we have to do that now when we never have throughout history, except in the most minimal terms?
In Christian,
it's always
in Christian
been in
tradition,
Dickensian's time, in the mills of Dickensian England, where it was slavery. There's been slavery.
But there are a lot
Always
of
it's
there
been
are
like
a
that.
lot of good people in the world that are doing that. And for example,
Is it
there is a
politically driven?
program
Yeah,
here in the States, the lay Comboni missionaries.
Okay.
Lay Comboni missionaries, American people that are going to the missions, and they spend 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they give their life for the mission. So there are
Yeah.
people that are doing that.
Yeah, there
we
has
have to
been
know
that.
about that.
Yeah, we have Salvation Army. We've had some institutions that are done by religiously oriented people who take interest in the gospel. But on the whole, the political and the reality is not it's not anywhere near like what the future requires. We need big change in order, not only the poor of the human species, but the whole ecology. There is
Yeah, you are
we
right.
got
But
weapons.
big changes.
No, big, not little changes, but paradigm. All of the institutions that we've inherited out of history are out of date. We need a liberation of the whole, like Teilhard de
agree.
Chardin.
I agree.
He talked.
Teilhard de Chardin,
We
yeah.
don't have that vision, but you are a step in that direction. You admire it.
I think so, because I think that for big transformation, we have to start with little or small transformation.
Okay, maybe
this
both.
is a little one,
Yeah.
but we changed
Yeah.
something there.
Yeah, and it's a model.
People are empowering themselves.
Yeah.
The experience is not mine.
Okay.
I'm just there for being part of,
facilitator.
facilitating.
Yeah, right,
And
okay.
who is the protagonist is the person, is the people of the area,
Yeah.
the local one.
That's what it was.
So
with the-
they gave an answer to their own problems.
Yeah.
With my help, yeah.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they have done it. And they are doing this.
Yeah, it's good. and it
This is
sounds-
the most important thing that I
I-
would like to share today.
Yeah, good, and you have. We've been able to. I'm really glad, and keep up the good work. I'm glad you connected with the Lakota. They're really good people, and they've been treated terribly. The
Yeah,
poorest people among
definitely.
us. Every treaty violated. Every treaty violated by the powerful. And the powerful always do that. They always take everything for themselves and give nothing for the least. And there's a few people who say, let's try to pay attention to it, a salvation mission or something, but it's never been enough. And it is absolutely crucial we do that. Not only all the people, but the ecology. The ecology.
Exactly. We need it. We
We
need
need
to
to-
listen to this
What do the
culture.
people of Brazil think about Chavez in Venezuela, or or Evo Morales, or even what's going on over in Ecuador and so
It
forth? There's a
depends.
left wing, and not to mention Cuba.
It depends on their political orientation.
Yeah, they.
Of course, there are people that are very much in touch and sympathize with them, and people that are scared and critics. So it depends on the political orientation.
Yeah.
You can find everything.
Yeah, but a lot of the things that are going good are coming out of that left-wing thing, it seems to me. I don't know. It seems to me usually it's been those people that have concern for the least among us. But it's wonderful work you're doing. Congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
been really good.
Thank you.
One of the things is we run out of time. We haven't got enough time. We could go on talking for a long time. Sounds a lot like community development and the good work. And we agree that there's all kinds of changes. And this could be a model that would be replicated other places. So all the very best. Travel safely back to
Thanks,
Brazil and do
thanks.
your good work, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for viewing. Your pleasure to have the Father's perception, and we invite you to tune in. We come back in tomorrow. Once again, thanks for all the very good work you're doing.
Thank you
and
very
all
much.
the best to you. Tip of the hat to you and everything.
Thanks.
Hope it all works out really well.
Thanks.
Okay? Thanks for coming
Bye-bye.
in.